The Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the latest edition of the Stephen A. Smith Show, coming at you, as I love to do every weekday over the airwaves of ESPN Radio, the Stephen A. Smith Show. Number to call up as always is 888-729-3776. That's 888-SAY-ESPN. On this particular day, lots to talk about on the NFL level. NFL playoffs that took place yesterday. I can't believe the miracle I witnessed. Minnesota beating New Orleans. I'll tell you why I'm so ticked off about it. We'll get into the Steelers. Days of the Steel Curtain are going, I can tell you that much. I'll explain why in just a few moments. Obviously, we're expecting to have Ryan Clark on the show at 30 minutes past the hour to highlight for us what transpired during yesterday's games in particular, but the weekend games throughout, because Philadelphia did beat Atlanta and New England did have the bye week that I thought they'd have by trouncing the Tennessee Titans. We'll get into all of that in just a few minutes and then some. But before I did anything, it's only appropriate to recognize that today is the birthday of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. This is Martin Luther King holiday. Take a moment, particularly if you're an African American, to pay homage and to give thanks to that man for all he stood for, all he represented, arguably the greatest civil rights leader in history, certainly one of the greatest civil rights leaders ever. On a day like today is not a day that I customarily feel the need to take off. I appreciate the fact that it's a federal holiday. It's certainly something that I endorse wholeheartedly. But in terms of my ability to reach millions upon millions of people via radio, television, and digital, I think it's apropos to take a moment to give thanks to a man that was such a fighter, such a warrior on behalf of all of us as citizens and human beings, to make sure that we have civil rights and that we're treated accordingly. I wouldn't be in the position that I'm in today if it were not for the efforts and the sacrifices of somebody such as him, a great man that I honor and revere every day of my life. So I just wanted to take a moment to give thanks and pay homage to him for all that he's meant to all of us. And throughout this show today, particularly when we come out of commercial breaks, you'll hear some sound from Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And I hope you can appreciate where I'm coming from with all of that. 888-SAY-ESPN is the number to call up. That's 888-729-3776. It's time for some Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk, best phones, best networks, no contracts. Brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. I really don't know what to say. I cannot believe what I saw. I cannot believe what I saw take place in Minneapolis, Minnesota last night. After a putrid first half performance where Drew Brees and the New Orleans Saints offense could do absolutely positively nothing. And Case Keenum with Stephon Diggs and Latavius Murray and the rest of the crew looked like gangbusters. What do you see? You see Drew Brees resurrect himself and remind the world of his greatness. That he is not somebody to be taken lightly. That he is not somebody to be summarily dismissed and counted out. And Drew Brees came out in that second half and put on a show. And as a result, a touchdown to Michael Thomas. Another touchdown to rookie Alvin Kamara. Okay? And obviously you just look at some of the things that they were doing. And ultimately him taking a 21-20 lead, overcoming a 17-point deficit. And then for the Vikings to turn around and to kick a field goal and to give themselves a 23-21 lead, but Drew Brees still had 1 minute and 25 seconds left. And that 4th and 10 play when he hit Willie Snead on the sideline. And I just said, it's Drew Brees we're talking about here. It's Drew Brees. Don't you worry about a thing. I tweeted and everything. I said it's a tough one, but it's plenty of time. And I believe in Brees. I believe in Brees. And sure enough, he got him in the field goal range. 53-yard field goal. Connected. Saints have the lead. They're up 1. Defense just got to neutralize Case Keenum. And the next thing you know, with 10 seconds left, pretty much the last play of the game, all you got to do is let Stephon Diggs catch the ball and keep him in bounds. Make sure that he doesn't go out of bounds. That's all you had to do. Nothing else. You didn't have to block the pass. You didn't have to make sure it was incomplete. You didn't have to do anything. All you had to do was let him catch the pass and tackle him in bounds. That's it. Nothing else. And this rookie, Marcus Williams, is coming on too fast. He doesn't want to get called for a pass interference because that'll leave time on the clock. It'll give the Vikings extra yardage. It would make a field goal that easier, and as a result, they would lose. So we understand what he was dealing with. But he came on too fast, and as a result, felt the need to move out the way. And so what he did was he dived a little bit away from Stephon Diggs, basically in an attempt to undercut him if indeed he did catch the ball. And as a result, he ended up missing him altogether. Stephon Diggs adroitly makes the catch, keeps himself in bounds, and scampers down the sideline for a 61-yard touchdown play from Case Keenum as time expired to deliver the Minnesota Vikings the victory. And I must confess to you, I wanted to throw up. And by the way, one of the reasons was that damn NFL, a National Football League, and those suits in the league office who need to loosen it up, take their belts, loosen it up, their jackets, loosen up, get a life. Why the hell should the Saints have to come out for an extra point after a moment like that? The crowd is sheer pandemonium. The players are celebrating. The moment is not something you teach, nor is it something you could buy. But because the NFL is tight as Lord knows what, don't know how to relax at all, you're gonna make the Saints come back out so you can take an extra snap and the game could be over. Just the stupidest thing I've ever seen. Just to pride Vikings fans even more so at the moment they could have had, even though it was a good moment. Just makes no sense whatsoever. But that's what transpired. But the biggest thing for me, what really made me sick to my stomach, is the fact that Drew Brees is not going to be in the Super Bowl. Because, ladies and gentlemen, without him in the Super Bowl, you know what I have as a choice out of the NFC? Case Keenum or Nick Foles. Really? I mean, really? Why don't y'all just ask people to skip the Super Bowl? I mean, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know if anybody's realized this, but you talk about Tom Brady holding the NFL in the palm of his hands. Could you imagine if the Super Bowl is Blake Bortles versus Nick Foles or Case Keenum? You talk about ratings plummeting. Not to mention the fact that Jacksonville's defense is elite. Philly's is damn near that way, and Minnesota's number 1. So could you imagine what we can anticipate for the Super Bowl? It might go down as the most boring Super Bowl in history. Unless Tom Brady's in it. In case no one has thought about it, perhaps you should think about that now. 888-729-3776. That's 888-SAY-ESPN. That's why I was so depressed that New Orleans lost. I'm depressed about the Steelers for a different reason. Mike Mitchell opening his mouth, Le'Veon Bell opening his mouth, them talking about everything but the Jacksonville Jaguars, that didn't help. And then talk about a defense that went out there and wet the bed. I understand that Ben Roethlisberger threw an interception. I understand that ultimately he had a sack fumble that was returned for a touchdown. I get all of that. He gave him 14 points. I understand. Really 7. Because just because you threw an interception doesn't mean that the Steelers couldn't have stopped Leonard Fournette, which they couldn't, by the way. 82 yards and 3 touchdowns in the first half. If he hadn't hurt his ankle, Lord knows how much yardage he would have had for the game. We can debate Mike Tomlin and that onside kick call. We can talk about Ben Roethlisberger and the turnovers. We can talk about Tomlin and his future in Pittsburgh for all I can. We can talk about all of that. But I tell you what you need to talk about. You need to talk about the heyday of this steel curtain. and how that's been long gone. This defense intimidates nobody. This defense phases no one. And yesterday, it was more apparent than ever before. Blake Bortles' offense put up 38 of Jacksonville's 45 points. Blake Bortles. That's what the Steelers have to deal with this entire offseason. They gave up 38 points to Blake Bortles. Lord have mercy. Lord have mercy. 888-729-3776. That's 888-SAY-ESPN. Straight Talk Wireless, nationwide coverage on America's most dependable 4G LTE networks. We'll continue talking on the Stephen A. Smith Show. We'll get into Atlanta losing to the Philadelphia Eagles. We'll talk more about New Orleans, Minnesota. We'll talk about Pittsburgh, Jacksonville. And we'll talk about how Tom Brady, more than ever before, is in position to be a savior for the National Football League. That and so much more coming up as the show progresses today. You are listening live to the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio.
Craving even more of Stephen A?
Him of all people!
For around-the-clock access to the man?
I'm Stephen A.
You can follow him on Twitter and Instagram at Stephen A. Smith and on Facebook at Stephen A.
Welcome back to the Stephen A. Smith Show right here on ESPN Radio, doing this show on a holiday that honors the great Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. We will be doing that throughout the show, so just want to let y'all know that. Number to call up as always is 888-729-3776, 888-SAY-ESPN. That's why I'm at work today. If it were not for him, those like him, conscientious objectors, civil rights leaders, I wouldn't be where I am today. So I want to make sure to pay homage to the man, the legend in my mind. ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Drivers who switch to Progressive can save an average of $620. Back to football. Pittsburgh Steelers lose this game yesterday, and there's a lot of things that you can point to without question. Ben Roethlisberger had 2 turnovers, but damn, he threw for 469 yards and 5 touchdowns. It's hard to hold him primarily accountable for what transpired yesterday. If the Steelers had a defense, it wouldn't have came to this point. But their defense was highly suspect. With under 2 minutes remaining, a little over 2 minutes remaining, and Mike Tomlin in position to kick the football off, he decided on an onside kick. And he's taking major heat for that. In my opinion, I agree it was the wrong call. I would not have done it. But I can understand why he did it. It was 2:18 left in the game. Pittsburgh went for an onside kick after cutting the deficit to 42-35, despite possessing 2 timeouts with the 2-minute warning ahead. But Mike Tomlin didn't believe in that defense. And the reality is, who the hell should? I mean, the Pittsburgh Steelers look so pathetic at times, they couldn't stop me. Now, obviously, you can't take anything away from Jacksonville. Leonard Fournette is a stud. I mean, he wasn't getting touched for the first 3 or 4 yards. He ran the football. And the minute he got touched, he dragged dudes with him some extra yardage. If he hadn't gotten hurt, I think Leonard Fournette would have had another 180-yard-plus game. I really do. He was that powerful. He was that punishing for the Pittsburgh Steelers. But Blake Bortles was impressive in the fourth quarter as well. He went through one stretch. He's 5 or 6 for 120 yards. Threw a 45-yard pass to Keelan Cole, setting up a touchdown that gave them a cushion after the Steelers were marching back. You know, play action fake through a 14-yard touchdown pass to a fullback in Bohannon. Offsetting spectacular touchdown catches by Antonio Brown, who, by the way, whose cast was not 100%, but he still had over 120 receiving yards. Martavis Bryant, that catch that he had for a touchdown to end the first half, that was impressive too. But in the end, what it comes down to is this. Ben Roethlisberger made mistakes. But Ben Roethlisberger balled. Antonio Brown balled. Le'Veon Bell, even though he shouldn't have been talking about his damn contract heading into the game, he still backed it up. He balled. Look at his yards from scrimmage. It's the Steelers' defense that didn't show up. You look at Keith Butler, I don't know what the hell's going on. Todd Haley with some of his play calling earlier on trying to run a sweep against the speed of Jacksonville's defense, which, by the way, they saw it coming from a mile away. I don't know why the hell you would call that play. So there's a lot of blame to go around. Nobody's trying to absolve Mike Tomlin. He's the man. He's the head coach. Damn it, it's on him. Some of that play calling was on him. If you could have control over Ben Roethlisberger near the end of the regular season when y'all played New England, throwing an interception because he wanted to spike the ball and y'all wanted him to run a play, and he ended up throwing the interception. If Mike Tomlin can have something to do with that play calling, he's got something to do with some of the other play calling that took place. I love the guy, but I am worried for him because you got a lot of people that are looking at Mike Tomlin right now wondering what the hell is going on. When you got players talking out of pocket that way, that wouldn't happen with New England. Braggadocio being worn on their chest. That wouldn't happen with Bill Belichick. Hell, it wouldn't happen with Mike McCarthy. So these are the kind of things you got to look at. Todd Haley's probably going to be gone. But they did put up some points, so it ain't all on him either. But this defense, I am sick of the Steelers' defense. No pass rush worth speaking of. Barely any pressure. And on top of it all, don't get me started with that secondary, which is why I'm discussing that Mike Mitchell would be all emboldened by anything. I like him. He can play. He's not a scrub. But I mean, come on. Blake Bortles dropped 38. 38. If you're the New York Giants, by the way, how are you feeling about Mike Tomlin doing the job that he's done? Mike Tomlin probably deserved to be removed as head coach of the New York Giants, but maybe you should have moved him upstairs and gave him Jerry Reese's job instead of casting him out. Maybe that's what you should have done. Because looking at this Jacksonville squad right now, let me tell you something. They're going to give the Patriots hell. Remember, Jacksonville doesn't have to blitz in order to get at Brady. They can rush 4, drop 7 back into the secondary, and still do damage. You want to see what Brady's kryptonite is? There you have it. Blitzing Brady ain't gonna rattle him. Setting the house ain't gonna rattle him. But if you're able to apply pressure while nobody downfield is open, now you got yourself a problem. Speaking of all of those folks, always lamenting New England, Spygate, Deflategate, and beyond, they've been to 7 straight conference finals now. All I got to say is this. If Bill Belichick's cheating, here's my question. How come the rest of y'all haven't learned how to cheat like him? Can't beat him, join him. I'd have figured that out by now. But that's just me.
The Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
You're listening live to the Stephen A. Smith Show right here on ESPN Radio. Number to call up as always is 888-729-3776. That's 888-SAY-ESPN. This is Dr. Martin Luther King holiday. It's his birthday, and on a day like today, federal holiday, we want to take a moment to pay homage to this great man, greatest civil rights leader I've ever known, and that is the case for most of us as well, by the way. So you'll be hearing excerpts from some of his great speeches throughout the show today, as has been the case for the first hour of the show. Again, you're listening live to Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. 888-SAY-ESPN is the number to call. That's 888-729-3776. No matter what the weather is outside, you can always brighten the day with 1-800-Flowers.com. When you order a dozen multicolored roses for only $29.99, you'll get another dozen absolutely free. Just go to 1-800-Flowers.com/ESPN. Going back to the discussion about the playoffs and about the Pittsburgh Steelers in particular, I want to say a couple of things. Number one, Mike Tomlin, Keith Butler, defensive coordinator, and others did not do a great job. Matter of fact, it was a relatively poor job. It's undeniable. Because it's not just about what transpired on the field. It's also what transpired in terms of guys running their mouths. Mike Mitchell, free safety for the Pittsburgh Steelers, ran his mouth it was publicized for running his mouth on far too many occasions. He got on me on Twitter, essentially saying that he expected me to know the facts journalistically because the quote that everybody was lending towards him rather, was a quote that he gave to a reporter weeks earlier asking about Ryan Shazier. Fair enough, if that is the truth. But from my understanding, those weren't the only quotes that he attributed towards looking forward to playing New England and ultimately looking past Jacksonville. And that's what I got on him about. Not to mention the fact that Teddy Bruschi, Ryan Clark, and others got on him for opening his mouth. He didn't send any tweets towards them. They're Super Bowl champions. And they were looking at a guy and saying, what the hell are you doing? And that's all I said. But he is a damn good player, even though he got raked through the coals by Rob Gronkowski a few weeks ago. But that's neither here nor there. Here's the bottom line. The Steelers defense got shredded by Blake Bortles yesterday. And apparently myself, Teddy Bruschi, and Ryan Clark weren't the only ones who took offense to Mike Mitchell opening his mouth, along with Le'Veon Bell opening his mouth. Steelers guard David DeCastro says he's not happy. This is according to Ed Boucher for the Pittsburgh Post-Courier. David DeCastro not happy with a few teammates disrespecting Jaguars. Quote, it's embarrassing. It really is. It just blows my mind. They beat us 30-9. We played like crap, and we want to talk about New England? More Steelers DeCastro and teammates talking Patriots before they played the Jags. It's just stupid. It's just not what you do. You don't need to give a team like that more bulletin board material. But not only did they take those comments that way, did a teammate like Mike Mitchell take those comments that way? Look at who else took the comments that way. The Jacksonville Jaguars. In the aftermath of beating the Pittsburgh Steelers yesterday, these are the tweets put out by various members of the Jaguars. Will Graves, gets a report. He's got a Will Graves for AP, the Associated Press. This is a quote that he tweeted from Jalen Ramsey. I was wondering why they were so confident because we stomped their ass last time. We knew we was going to do the same thing this time. We were confident coming into the game. I can't tell you why they were so confident, but that went out the door real quick. Barry Church, according to Will Graves. All we did was feed on a few that everybody was providing. The media, everybody was talking about how they're going to run through us. It's not going to be like last week. Blake Bortles this, Blake Bortles that. All he did was dominate their defense. J.P. Shadrick quotes Jalen Ramsey. They asked for us and they got us. Let's keep it real. We should have blown them out. Rick Walsh. I think it's KDKA. I think it's a television station. Jacksonville players outside their locker room yelling, where's Mike Mitchell? I want to see Mike Mitchell right now. Dan Graciano for ESPN. Black Jaguar players could be heard in the hall shouting, where's Mitchell? Bring Mike Mitchell out here. Tim Benz. Some guy named Tim Benz. Jackson on Bell's tweet, Le'Veon Bell, because remember, he was talking about them too. They said they were going to be in Boston. So I guess they're going to be in Boston watching us. We'll send them Jags jerseys so they can support us. More Tim Benz. Calais Campbell on the Steelers. Hey, look, they're a great team. And then Marcel Darius jumps in and said, stop saying they are a great team. They just got their ass whooped. Am I inaccurate now, Mike Mitchell? None but respect for you, your game. But you didn't show up last night, yesterday afternoon. Neither did the rest of the Steelers defense. Y'all gave up 38 points to Blake Bortles. I'm going to say it again. 38 points to Blake Bortles. 38 points to Blake Bortles. And Blake Bortles had a good fourth quarter, 5 of 6 for 120 yards during one stretch. Blake Bortles showed up. He shows up like that against New England. Jacksonville can win this AFC Championship game because against New England, Tom Brady, you want to know his kryptonite? Send 4 rushes. Don't blitz. Send 4 to apply the pressure. Drop the other 7 in coverage. With that speed, that athleticism, and the hitman that they've got in their secondary, I got news for you. Jacksonville can make Sunday nightmarish for Tom Brady and the New England Patriots if the Patriots ain't careful. Here's the difference. The mistakes that Mike Tomlin and his staff made through this game, chances are Bill Belichick, Matt Patricia, and the crew ain't going to do that. They're going to dot every I, they're going to cross every T, and they're not going to underestimate anybody. As Teddy Bruschi came on First Take last week, my show on ESPN every weekday from 10 a.m. to noon Eastern time, when he came on the show and said last week, he said, Bill Belichick encourages his team, spray the perfume. Say nothing but sweet things to your opponent and about your opponent all week long. Provide no bulletin board material whatsoever. So guess what? In other words, Bill Belichick ain't going to have any members of his Patriot squad imitating Mike Mitchell, Le'Veon Bell, or anybody else on the Steelers who were talking smack. Looking past the Jaguars, clearly, because they wanted a second shot at the Patriots. He's not going to have that. That's why he's been to 7 consecutive AFC Championship games. That's why he has 2 Super Bowl championships in the last 4 years or so. Just a thought. Just a thought. Marty in New York, you're live with Stephen A. What's up?
Hey, Stephen A. Long time caller. Listener, first time caller.
Thank you.
I am a Steelers fan. Mm-hmm. My God, my defense, a high school team could play better defense than the Steelers yesterday against Blake Bortles and everything. You know what I'm saying? Mike Mitchell needed to shut his damn mouth and play defense yesterday. And another thing I have a gripe with is those 2 4th and inches calls where we did the sweep outside, knowing Jacksonville's defense was so damn fast on the outside. We couldn't get there. We lost 4 yards. And then another one was that pass. How come Ben Roethlisberger 6'5"? He could have just leaned forward and scored. Got this first down. Granted, he threw the ball on some beautiful passes to Antonio Brown and them on 4th downs and stuff, but our defense looks so horrible. I agree with you about the steel curtains a long time ago, and Le'Veon Bell should shut up about his contract, about franchise tagging him, and showing up. He did his thing too, but our defense looks so bad.
Le'Veon Bell did show up. He balled. Mike Mitchell may not have, but Le'Veon did ball. Let's not knock Le'Veon. Listen, he talked a little smack or whatever about his contract, but he did show you why he's validated. He did show you why he deserves his money. He, Antonio Brown, and Big Ben, the big three showed up yesterday. They were not flawless, especially Big Ben with his 2 mistakes that cost him basically 14 points. But the offense showed up. This game was on the defense and the coaching. I don't think there's any question about that. I appreciate the call. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. More of the Stephen A. Smith Show on ESPN Radio in a minute.
Craving even more of Stephen A?
Him of all people.
For around-the-clock access to the man?
I'm Stephen A.
You can follow him on Twitter and Instagram at Stephen A. Smith and on Facebook at Stephen A.
Back to Stephen A. Smith Show right here on ESPN Radio, 888-729-3776. It's 888-SAY-ESPN. Stephen A. Smith Show live with you. Martin Luther King Jr. holiday. Again, 888-SAY-ESPN is the number to call up. Stephen A. Smith Show is being brought to you by Pennzoil Synthetics. Talking synthetic motor oil performance to a whole. Taking synthetic motor oil performance to a whole new level. Make the switch to Pennzoil Synthetics today. Let's go over to the phones. Carlton in Tampa, you're live with Stephen A. Talk to me, buddy.
Where do I start today, my friend? First off, Mike Mitchell is hot garbage. In 14 games this year, he's gotten his hands on 2 balls, Stephen A. He has 2 passes defended in 14 games. No interceptions. He's not even in the frame of reference usually when there's double coverage and he's over the top.
Okay.
He's awful. He is truly awful, and until the Steelers get rid of him, they're going nowhere.
Okay.
Secondly, I got a prediction for you, Stephen A.
Uh-oh.
This coming Sunday.
No, let me guess. You're going to pick the Jacksonville Jaguars to beat the New England Patriots, aren't you?
No. I'm going to predict that Ramsey and Boye are going to get at least 3 defensive holding or pass interference calls on the New England Patriots. They mauled the Steelers receivers yesterday, and the refs did not take the flag out of their pocket one time. How about when Ramsey goes over the top of Martavius Bryant at the 5-yard line, mauls him, no flag comes out.
I agree with that.
Guarantee you the refs are going to throw multiple flags on them for the New England Patriots, because it looks like the refs have decided that the Patriots are going to be the Super Bowl champions. In the last 4 games, Stephen A., since the Patriots got in trouble when they lost unexpectedly to the Dolphins, the refs have called all of 12 penalties for 100 yards against the New England Patriots. They have called 29 penalties for 292 yards against their opponents, reversed 2 of their opponents' touchdowns called on the field, reversed a 4th down opponent's stop on the field and gave the ball back to the Patriots, and reversed a Patriots 4th down punt against Tennessee and gave the Patriots the ball back. It is unbelievable, Stephen A. And even Tony Romo and Jim Nantz and Mike Mularkey, they all see it in the first half of last weekend's game against the Titans, and nobody else sees it. The refs are calling 3 times the amount of penalties on the opposition as on the Patriots.
But wait a minute. You're giving me numbers and you're giving me stats, and I can respect that. But I got a loaded question to ask you, Carlton.
Go ahead.
Is it possible that Bill Belichick knows the rules better than most of his opponents, and as a result, coaches his players to sit up there and know the rules themselves and know how to draw these penalties against the opposition.
Oh, they know the rules better. In the first 13 games of this season, Stephen A., the Patriots had 87 penalties for 772 yards. Their opponents had 92 penalties, only 5 more, for 805 yards, 34 yards more. So they were within like 4% of each other for the first 13 games. And in the last 4 games, when the Patriots were looking like they weren't going to get home field advantage, they have called 3 times 300% of the amount of penalties on the opponents is on the Patriots, and reversed 2 of their touchdowns. And like I say, reversed the 4th down stop of them, reversed the 4th down punt of the Patriots. It's a joke, Stephen A. And Tony Romo saw what a joke it was. And that game the Titans should have either been tied or ahead at the half in that game. It was all the refs. It was all the refs in the first half of that game with that ridiculous offensive pass interference call against Decker and the ridiculous drawing illegal motion on the Patriots punt. Do you know that by those 2 penalties alone, they stopped the Titans. Tennessee had the ball first down on their own 40-yard line. So they reversed a short field for the Titans. They gave the Patriots a short field because after the penalty and the punt, the Patriots got the ball on the 48-yard line, okay? Mm-hmm. So the Patriots had a short field. They go down and they score their second touchdown. And on the punt, the Patriots had the ball at the 11 and they were punting.
I got all
so
that.
Instead of Titans getting a short field, the Patriots ended up scoring a touchdown after that.
Here's my problem with what you're saying. You're acting like the Patriots are going to win the Super Bowl by default, when in fact, again, I've said this to you on many occasions, Carlton, if Bill Belichick cheats so much, if Bill Belichick gets so much favor and what have you, when does it come a point in time when the opponents are culpable in terms of getting themselves into a similar position? If you can't beat him, join him. Figure out a way to do what the hell he's doing. Answer that quickly, because I got to
play by the rules, Stephen A. If everything defaults and it's just wide open lawlessness, nobody's going to want to watch the game.
All right, Carlton, I got to run.
But now I'm saying that the refs and the league wants the Patriots in the Super Bowl.
Oh, you're damn right they do.
And
you should too. And you should too. Why the hell would you want to see Blake Bortles versus Nick Foles or Case Keenum? Why would you want to see that?
I want to see Tom Brady beat the Patriots and get the game taken away. I don't want to see that, Stephen A.
Hey, as far as I'm concerned, it looks legitimate to me. I ain't got no problem with it, Carlton, but I appreciate the call. Thank you so much. Thank you, Carlton. See, Carlton's going to hate on the Patriots no matter what. I mean, they're 5-time champions. They've been to 7 straight AFC championship games. I mean, come on. The worst record they've had since the new millennial is 9-7. And Carlton will find a way. Now, it doesn't mean that there's no legitimacy. Spygate, Deflategate, we get all of that. We understand the impetus for his ire. We get it. But I mean, my God, at some point in time, what, Bill Belichick's cheating? That's your answer to everything? Or Bill Belichick's the only one cheating? That's your answer to everything? No, Carlton. He's better than everybody else. He's better. He knows every trick. He knows every rule. He knows how to go right up to that line without touching that third rail. Most times anyway. That's just the way it is. We can act like we don't know, but it's the truth. Ain't no getting around it. Stephen in Ohio, talk to me.
Hey, Stephen.
Go ahead, buddy.
Yeah, man, I tell you what, Carl, you gotta stand back when, just like you stood back and watched the great Iron Curtain. You know, you just like, wow, what a great team. You know, what great players.
Yeah.
You know, and Belichick, I like Belichick. I liked him when he was with the Browns. I like what he did with the Browns. And when he went to the Patriots, I followed him. He's good. He's a good coach, and I love the way he runs that locker room.
He's great. Belichick is the best. He's the standard. Period.
Yeah. I mean, I love, like I said, what he does with that locker room. Do you hear much coming out of that locker room?
Here's the bottom line. Here's what you're trying to say, Stephen. Okay? Mike Mitchell, Le'Veon Bell, their comments would have never been made if they were playing for the Patriots. That's basically what you're trying to say.
Yeah.
And there's nobody can refute that right now. I wish I could, but I can't. I really, really do, Stephen, but I can't. You're absolutely right. That's something that Mike Tomlin's got to reel in. You know, he is emotional. He is chest thumping, but I happen to think he's a damn good coach. His record during the first half of a season, it's usually better during the second half of the season. 7 of the 10 seasons he's been a coach, guess what? And now 11, his record in the second half of the season has been better than his record in the first half. But you can't lose games like you lost yesterday. And you can't lose games the way you lost yesterday. There is no way around that. We can slice it any way we want to, but it is what it is. Period.